Hello and welcome to Hot Indonesia, your weekly window into the world's biggest archipelago. I'm Dalton Tanunaka in Jakarta. Here is this week's H-I Hotlist. Jailbreak. The government has begun releasing prisoners to reduce the coronavirus threat behind bars. Should corruption inmates be included? BALI blues. How bad has the country's premier resort destination been hit? We get the inside scoop. And homework hazards, the challenges of staying in and trying to accomplish something. Now, here are my co-hosts each and every week, again via socially distancing video conference. From her home in Bintaro is Sandrina Malakiano, former TV news anchor, now a political marketing consultant. And from his home in Senopati is Sandiaga Uno, business executive and former vice governor of this capital city. Okay, let's get to business. Hot topic number one, jailbreak. Now, Indonesia's prisons are notoriously overcrowded, many 2 to 3 times over capacity, inmates sleeping side by side on floors and stairwells in some places. To prevent the spread of COVID-19 behind bars, the Law and Human Rights Minister began early releasing more than 15,000 inmates, mainly minor drug convicts. But the plan also included 300 corruption inmates over the age of 60. Anti-corruption activists are not happy about that last part, and the president already said this week that he's against it. Do we have problems with that?
If I may begin by answering that, Dalton, yes, we do, because what we need is transparency and a clear, detailed information. What do they mean by that they are going to release 30,000 inmates? Amongst those are also people who were convicted because of corruption cases and narcotics. The minister actually said last April 4th that that is actually not the case. It's not true that he will just easily let them go, the corruption convicts and also the drug convicts cases. But it has been going on. The question is, they have to let us know how many and who they are, because those who are in the jails designated only for corruption cases, they have one cell is for one person. It's different. They're not like the other inmates who sleep like sardines back to back and one on top of the other.
As you know, many are wealthy business people or politicians, the corruption inmates I'm talking about. Maybe a condition of their release could be a commitment to help the public or a donation of time and money to fight the virus. Would that ease your mind about it, Sandy?
I think it's going to be a very divisive issue. We are fighting corruptions, and I think we need to send the right signals. The overcapacity is cited already, 270,000 inmates, 130,000 capacity. I think this is, people would need to find solution. And I think we need, because of the coronavirus, find a more innovative solutions. I would rather create a facility by way of converting some of the empty spaces, public spaces, commercial spaces, turn it to a temporary cells or temporary capacities for these inmates so that they could have social distancing. And in the meantime, you also provide jobs, again, jobs for people who would be able to earn a living. This is a way for you to also bring cash transfers to the people. And I think more innovations will also be needed in order not just increasing the capacity by way of building new ones, because you will not be able to build new ones, but you will be able to convert some of the existing capacity that we would have right now, because it's empty anyway and a lot of people are out of jobs. We could get them and help the situations. Now, we have to make very clear, and I think the president have already made it clear, that we are against the notions of releasing early release of people who have been involved in big corruption cases. And I think this is actually being done in other countries as well. In UK and US, many countries have implemented early release, but only for people who have met certain criteria, who have 2/3 serving, and also the crime is not the high-level big corruption case. We need also to have the strict the travel warrants and the reporting, and also the quarantine policy. This is the time that is so unprecedented, and I guess we don't need additional issues to divide ourselves. We need to deliver facts.
I'm not sure
We need
why
to clarify
the
the
minister would. Yes, Sandy, I'm not sure why the minister would raise that particular segment of the prison population. So it leaves a lot of questions in the public's mind and activists' mind. Now, generally, 5,500 drug offenders, women and juveniles have already been released. I have no argument with this part of the program because they serve most of their sentence as part of their criteria, and it does ease the problem, right?
That's correct. And if you look at the one at risk are really the elderlies, the 75 and older, as well as people who have issues with diabetes, with lungs issues, and with other disease that is already ongoing. So we need to specialize those on a humanitarian basis. And I think we need to see the urgency of the matter. And because this is unprecedented, you need to have extraordinary measures, bring in the private sectors, bring in also some of the, the humanitarian organizations to be involved, rather than creating an issue that completely derailed the talks about COVID-19 and actually taking away resources from our fight against COVID-19.
Right. So, Sanjina, I think you would agree, if there is an outbreak of coronavirus in prisons, that would be a disaster. So let us use this critical time now to maybe reduce the prison population. You have no problem with that, right?
No. As long as there is transparency and the public is well informed of what is being done based on what specifications, then that should be okay.
Okay, good. Hot Indo will continue shortly with Bali Blues. How bad has COVID-19 hit the island of the gods? You're watching Hot Indonesia with Sandrina, Sandy, and me. Here's hot topic number 2, Bali Blues. It's one of the world's most popular holiday destinations and the country's biggest foreign exchange earner. But since the coronavirus and restrictions against its spread, Bali is hurting bad. Arrivals down 95%. Most hotels and restaurants closed. Estimates are that it'll take a year for the resort island to recover. Now, to get the view from the ground, we've asked Jack Daniels to join us. He is the owner of Bali Discovery Tours and editor of the award-winning industry newsletter, Bali Update. Jack, thank you very much for joining us from your home in Sanur. Now let's get going here. Less than 2% of the country's reported infections in Bali. Only 2 deaths of foreign nationals, but the impact there is huge. How severe, Jack?
Well, medically, of course, it's like you say, we don't have very many cases. I think we have something on the order of about 19 proven cases of COVID-19 right now on the island. But that's not the problem. It's an international problem. And it's happened in 1 month. I mean, we already had a pre-existing problem where the Chinese tourists weren't coming to Bali for reasons that had nothing to do with disease. And then we were hit with this. And in a period of a month, the airlines have stopped flying. More than half of the hotels, the majority of hotels are now closed. People who lived from paycheck to paycheck are now at home and wondering how to get the next meal on their table for their children. So we've been hit severely. I go out on the streets. We have social distancing and we've asked people to stay home. But the streets, it's like a horror movie in the sense that there's no cars and nothing to be seen and restaurants are shut.
Yes, Sandrina, you have a home in Bali, so you know the situation there as well. What are your thoughts, or a question for Jack?
Actually, I spoke to a friend of mine who owns several hotels there, and he said what's really good coming from him is that they still have this positive way of looking at things. They say, okay, we have no other choice but to close down now, and they're not laying off all their staffs, but just telling them to stay at home. But he believes that after a few months, when things go back to normal, it will be a booming season and things will be back to normal again. So well, we'll just go day by day and see what happens now.
Jack and Sandy, maybe you can add on this business angle. I mean, Jack, what are workers doing there now? You touched on it a little bit. And how is the Bali government responding to the worker situation?
Well, the government's doing all kinds of things. I mean, nationally, the way the government responded initially, not really their fault, but totally incorrectly. When the thing started, of course, they immediately and very quickly passed bills to provide funding for getting tourists to come. Well, we won't have the Chinese, because initially the virus was only a Chinese disease, if you will, in the words of Donald Trump. It really affected Bali, so all the airplanes flying from China stopped. But then, so they said, okay, we'll refocus our marketing and we'll go to Europe and get the guests. And we were busy packing our bags to do European sales campaigns, and the European airports closed and the borders closed. So that wasn't going to fix it. So there's no solution right now, I think, in terms of getting the tourists to come back. That's an international camel that we'll just have to ride and see what direction it's going in. Locally, the government here is putting out food packages for the Denpasar government's giving out 10,000 food packages of fundamental foods for the extremely poor and disadvantaged. We're talking about people about setting up soup kitchens.
But Jack, before we go on, and before Sandy, you weigh in on what he's talking about, government efforts in Bali, let's not perpetuate this I call it racist, calling it a Chinese virus. It's a virus that originated in China. Chinese is a description of a race, yeah? So let's not call it a Chinese virus. And I mean, I know you were quoting the President of the United States, but he was wrong. So let's move on now. Okay, Sandy, you heard what Jack just had to say. Do you think the Bali government is doing enough, and should they be doing something special because of the importance of that island?
Well, my hearts, my prayers, my thoughts are with JD and the entire people in Bali, because tourism accounts for 10% of the Indonesia's total workforce and 12 million total of workforce across Indonesia, and predominantly in Bali. As you know, tourism is the first and foremost sectors of business for all Balinese SMEs, and they are now facing probably the most difficult time. This is unprecedented, and when they're out of job, they're out of income, and when they don't have income, they cannot put food on the table. And this is something whereby the government needs to step in. I think the Balinese provincial government, as well the central government, needs to hand in hand prioritize some of the people who would need direct cash transfers, SMEs who need some kind of facilities whereby they are facing probably the toughest time in the history of modern Indonesia. And I think when people are staying home, they're still in need for food, in need of services, and therefore some of the SMEs that are impacted will be able to be coordinated to continue to support the 4 million Balinese.
Okay, Jack, now final thoughts from you on this now to wrap up this segment. What are the positive takeaways from how Bali is coping with this crisis?
It's almost a surprise question. We're dealing with it. And I think the problems Sandrina's made is that, people put a positive spin on things, but nobody really knows how we're going to get out of this crisis, whether it's going to be next month everybody's back on airplanes, or if it's going to be a long process of perhaps people won't come back to Bali until we can tell them 80% of the people here have been vaccinated against this thing. And that's 1 or 2 years away, even if we had the vaccine. But people are helping each other. The Balinese in the press, as I read it, they're reacting and they're re-examining, they're going back to their faith, and they're finding their cultural values, which is maybe something Bali needed in the long term anyway, is to make sure that the essence of being Balinese and respecting the cosmos and your gods and your neighbors. Not to go too long, but there's the Trihita Karana, which is a fundamental viewpoint of the Balinese, is that one maintains one's life by keeping peace and balance with 3 sectors: with the Almighty, with the environment, and with each other. And perhaps if we come back to that and we look at taking care of our neighbors, taking care of our environment, and remain respectful and God-fearing, that could be a positive outcome of all this.
All right, Jack Daniels, owner of Bali Discovery Tours, thank you very much for your time from Sanur in Bali. Now, more Hot Indo is ahead. Homework hazards, the challenges of working from home with a full house, or even if you're single. You are watching Hot Indonesia from various locations in Jakarta and Bali. Here's hot topic number 3, homework hazard. The government request to work from home is well intended, but it's not easy. Many in Indonesia depend on their office Wi-Fi for internet connections. And there are, of course, the distractions coming from family, friends, food, and pets. Now, Sandy, you've been doing a lot of video conferences in more places than probably you could normally do if you had to travel there. Productive for you, isn't it, this time?
Yeah, I'm in investing and finance business. We do video conferencing all the time. And because of our investors are located in Europe, in the US. But this is, again, unprecedented, whereby you are forcing yourself to cope, and because everybody's at home, they're using their network, and the load of the network is getting really heavy, and you see some disruptions with the Wi-Fi. So it's a challenging time, and then you have the distractions.
Okay, I want to get to some of the distractions later, but real quickly, Sandrina, what kind of disruptions or distractions are you finding in your days at home?
Well, specifically, we are all facing increasingly challenging times and massive changes in our daily routines. Now, more into learning how to cook. My daughter is baking almost every day now, studying with the children, keeping them company to be able to optimize online learning given by their teachers, and doing a lot of errands, actually. But aside from that, not only from home, I still have a business which is actually not running anymore right now, but still I have to take care of what's going on there at my cafe. So a lot of businesses now are also experiencing a conversion. They're converting the businesses to try to help those in the front lines, like what we are doing. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that later in the closing.
Now, one way we keep amuse ourselves is all the social media videos, memes, and apps going around. What I want to do is each one of us pick our favorite one that we've seen over the past couple weeks and share it with our audience. Now, my favorite is this one of the couple that did in the US a simple imitation of riding a horse. I mean, this is pretty creative, and it's a good thing the woman has long hair. Do you guys have a favorite? Sandrina, what is your favorite?
I would pick one closer from home. A very creative wife surprising her husband, as you can see in the clip that we are showing right now. So it's pretty creative. What you think of doing, trying to amuse one another at home.
Yeah, you can think. I mean, you got to be pretty bored to do this kind of elaborate thing. Sandy, yours involves something that looks like magic.
Yeah, for so many years, for ages, men have been dreaming to be able to fly. So, and they create so many things. They create fixed wings, aircraft, and so on and so forth. But this millennials really putting digital and communications together, and it's somewhat interesting, whereby he's showing that he's been able to go around the house and flying. And this is again because of the technology with apps. He could create something very, very interesting. This is also from Indonesia, and believe me, Indonesians are very creative. They like to create contents, and you're very amused. And this is something that actually, when you work from home, you have additional time to create content, and kudos to all the people creating contents to amuse others. And this is
Yeah, you're right. That's just a few. That's just a few of the thousands of videos and distractions from work and avoiding boredom. Okay, it is feedback time now, and we're very happy to hear from our viewers from around the world. First, Richard in Jakarta posted this on our Facebook page following our discussion about the latest U.S. fast food chain coming to Indonesia. I always thought Taco Bell would do well here, but it will take a long-term strategy to succeed. Definitely, Richard, but they will get immediate business from me and Sandy's wife, Noor.
Yes. She's asking when.
You see, the government is financially and logistically capable to face such consequences.
Good question, Nawful. That is why the government has not ordered a national lockdown and likely won't. Here's how to contact us with your feedback or video. Email at hotindo@theindonesiachannel.com or comment through our Hot Indonesia or Indonesia Channel Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages. Final words, Sandrina.
Yes, since the 28th of March, our cafe, Abuela, has been helping to provide food for those in the front line, the medical workers, doctors, nurses who are assigned in COVID assigned hospitals in Jakarta. 200 dinner meals packages every day, and we need your support. Please follow our Instagram account. You can see it on your screen right now, and there's also the account number, because we're all in this together and they're doing such a magnificent job. So let us give our love and our support to give them food which they need, healthy and a complete and balanced diet.
All right, everyone, please help. Final words, Sandy.
Well, the government has finally made an order for everybody outside to wear a mask. So instead of going for the medical grade mask that is going to be prioritized for the medical workers, medical staff, let's go with the non-medical grade that's now being offered by some of the SMEs that shifted from the fashion business that they have been in to produce something of this, like a very nice face mask that would do the job. I think it's not as tight as the medical mask, but it also give you protections and also give jobs to the SMEs. This is now available at the e-commerce platform around Indonesia. So please support small medium enterprise.
Yeah, and that's good because these are cloth and you can reuse them if you wash them properly. Okay.
That's correct. This is up to 40 times usage.
Okay, my final words. You know, this Sunday is Easter, Christianity's most important observance. But because of restrictions, churches are closed. Most, as you know, are dependent on congregation offerings. And without donations, they are hurting along with everyone else. So please help out your place of worship financially if you can in these tough times. In fact, no matter what religion you are. And that is Hot Indonesia for this week. For Sandrina Malakiano and Santiago Uno, I'm Dalton Tanonaka. Thank you very much for watching, and please join us again next time.